Gary Kennedy used to say, interesting people pass through here, but some stay, you know.
I'll take the opportunity to bring this up because we did discuss it last week, but the traffic exhibition that's going on now too,
right?
Which I guess shows the level of interaction between university galleries at the moment.
Yes.
But also the odd part about that I found is that the AGNS is the only major institution in town that doesn't have their hand in that exhibition.
And they may feel that you know, although that show was being planned 7 years ago, so they would have been contacted about there. But they may have felt they've done enough for, you know, they're planning on having a show of David Askevold, a one-person show. They've already had one, but he's, you know, one of the conceptual art luminaries closely associated with NASCAD and with the foundation years of the Kennedy era and the conceptual art era back in 1967, 68.
First question is centered around it can be like strictly your opinion or the ideal answer in your mind, but I'm wondering what you think the role of major publicly funded institutions like the AGNS should be in regards to the local community and the general public.
Yeah.
Because they kind of have to balance those two communities sometimes.
Yeah, it's a tough question though. When I was thinking about it beforehand, looking at some of the words that you have in that question, like the word community, what exactly defines is the fact that you and I and someone else consider themselves artists actually make us part of the same community.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is multifold. You know, I think that if it takes a community to raise a child, it takes the same community or the same, you know, effort in a community to raise an artist, so to speak. You know, but the child or the artist also has a very important role, right? And so we all have to meet each other kind of 3/4 of the way, so that we can, you know, keep moving, keep going forward, basically, because we need you just as much as you need us. And you know, we can only go a certain distance with the resources and the money that we have, and then the effort, and you know, that is available to us, and then everyone else has to kind of pitch in and help us. So you know, artists and teachers like, for example, Craig Leonard, or some of the other, you know, Adam Kelly, for instance, and some other teachers are definitely helpful in that way, because they also have worked at these centers, and so they know the value of the education and the training that can actually be provided through nonprofit, not just the academic institution.
Where I am graduating next year too.
Worry about the future kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah,
I know. I've gone through that myself. I think it's difficult to be an artist, I think, in this community. Now, I have to also sort of just say, I come from Denmark, and so I haven't lived there for many, many years. But well, I've been back for long stints. But it's a very different community in terms of how artists are perceived, I think, in terms of the general public. And I think there's much more opportunity, really, for making an income from your actual production because people are so tuned into, you know, buying art and wanting art. And I think per capita there's more money in general.
And is that also, would there be any... you had mentioned in Denmark that arts are perceived different generally. Is that by the Danish government as well as the public?
Oh, I think there's some really big grants. There's lifetime grants. There is
more support.
Accommodation for life if you really earned it, you know. And I mean, not everybody gets it, but and there's grants which run for 3 years, you know, and so on and so forth. Not everybody gets it, but it's a general. I think more of the general public will go to museums and things like that, and I guess they are pretty well supported. And
so a more active community in general.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be unfair, but I had some experiences too which proved to me that in a way sometimes I think you feel as an artist, and I'm not talking about the inside group of people, but sort of more general, you know, that you're sort of a bit of a delinquent if you are an artist. You're not really pulling your weight, you know. Yeah. And that's been very disturbing, I found.
And do you feel that that's the perception here more so?
Well, let us just say I had some incidents where I had to deal with some studio issues, and that I had to deal with city staff, and that was a distinct impression I ended up with. This was very depressing.
How the Canada Council functions, your role within the organization, and the programs offered.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting us to participate in this panel. It's always great to meet filmmakers across the regions in the country. I'm a program officer, so we're 5 program officers in the media arts section, which is one of the arts disciplines at Canada Council. Canada Council has been involved in supporting the arts for over 50 years in this country, and proud to do so, and hope to continue to do so for many more. The arts discipline encompasses writing and publishing, theater, dance, visual arts, and a couple of offices, music, of course, and media arts, but also offices such as the Equity Office, the Aboriginal Arts Office, and the Inter-Arts offices are other places where you can get support, as well as the Audience and Market Development section of the Canada Council. So there are a multitude of spaces and opportunities for artists to knock on our door and receive funding. I'll talk specifically about programs that are of interest to filmmakers and video makers. If any of you are interested in new media and audio art, please raise your hands and ask questions, because I can also speak to those programs specifically, as I am responsible for them. So the couple of programs I'll talk about are the travel grant program, which Heather has several times received a grant for travels around the world, and the film and video program. Before going into detail, I'll just survey the program and give you a bit of information as to how one is eligible to these programs. As a basic eligibility to the programs for emerging artists is someone who has completed basic training in the media arts, so someone who's either gone to film school, college program, or who's also received informal training, such as AVCOOP, who has wonderful programs for helping emerging filmmakers develop their craft. So that's also a possibility of recognizing that equivalence as training, and also self-taught practitioners who learn through making films. So the idea is that you've completed your basic training and you have had the opportunity of creating one professional independent work after the basic training, and that work has been shown in a professional context. What do I mean by professional context? Well, this festival, the Halifax Independent Filmmakers Festival, is a professional context. It means that there are media arts practitioners, professionals who have selected the work to be programmed. So this is the distinction we make between a professional venue and a non-professional venue. Because I get a lot of emerging filmmakers phoning me and asking, well, I've had 10,000 hits on YouTube, which is great. That means the work gets out there. However, that is not a professional context. So I could speak more specifically if any of you have questions about other types of professional context. I'll certainly respond to that. So that's the basic eligibility to both the travel grants and the film and video grants. In the film and video program, we have three components. One is a development grant, we call it the script writing grant. Now the script writing grant is unfortunately, at this time, only available to mid-career and established artists. So to be mid-career, you have to have more professional practice, which means at least 3 complete years as a professional practitioner and at least 2 works that have been presented in professional context. So that's the, let's say, the extra step of commitment towards your professional practice to get access to this particular component. The other component is the production grant. That is open to all levels, emerging, mid-career, and established. And so, if you want to produce your film, if you want to create the film, you would apply to that component. The third component of this program is an interesting component, especially for those who have more a process-oriented practice. It's called research creation. Now, research creation is not research to do production. That's the development grant, so that would be script writing. This research creation grant is more specifically tailored to people that have a more process-based practice, which means maybe a more experimental approach, who are interested in video or film installation, who would like to do a lot of, let's say, I like to call it play in the editing suite, who like to work with developing film language, effects, professional development opportunities, such as going to residencies or workshops. So this is a more flexible component to allow a program of work rather than oriented specifically towards production and post-production. So it could either be professional development or experimentation leading to the creation of the work, hence research creation. So I'll stop it there and